in our
Isn't that special? Welcome, guys. I'm going to move myself over here. I just like it over there. Welcome to MK Canada, the show about mind control in Canada. I'm Andreas Xirtus. Welcome, everybody. I've got my wonderful guests and co-hosts, Kurt. So glad you're here. Musical guest who created the American Time Machine experience, changed my life. Earlier today, I was singing a jingle, which I recorded for you, and we're going to work on a song. It's like, you could be my girlfriend. You could be my girl. It's going to be good. Jordan, also with us, Vezeau from the Divulgence podcast, a great podcaster and a great Canadian and a great guy. And then Melissa, who is actually a Croat cousin of mine, which is kind of interesting, and lives in British Columbia, which is a fun fact. How are you all doing? How are you doing, Melissa?
Really good.
I like how you had to think about it for a second. You're like, I don't know. I just went through that weird mind control.
I'm thrilled.
Video,
I'm usually a chat dog, I guess I would call myself, where I'm just constantly barking in the chat. And then now I get to be on the show.
Well, yeah, it helps to be Croatian, and it also helps to be Canadian.
And a cousin.
Yeah, it's a decent trifecta. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, there's a small amount of people in Croatia. So,
Yeah.
And you find another one, it's kind of like, it is very like Rick and Morty. You're like, oh, you're C-138. C. I like it.
Yeah, it's like you gather when you immigrate, like everyone possibly out there.
Speaking of Canada, I mean, in terms of the news, Canada's news is a little different than ours. Like, it's not like about the sexuality of Canada so much. Wild horses face unruly storms as Fiona nears Canada's east coast. Now, in California, I don't think anybody's that worried about Storm Fiona, but in Bermuda or in Canada, there's apparently this crazy storm that's headed this way, and Canada's supposed to be scared. And if you're living in Canada, I just warned you, so you should be grateful. But yeah, it's going to be a big deal. That's a scary one. The other one, category 4. So 1,000 Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico's in trouble. Canada's looking at kind of a concern. There was another thing which made the title, Canada to drop COVID vaccine mandates at border starting September 30th, which is sweet. So we can hang out again. Yeah. Any thoughts on this, on the because like, remember the trucker protest? Everyone was like, can we just get this about? And now we're
it's
here.
It's about time, man.
Yeah.
Like, plain and simple. From my point of view, it's like, it's about time. I mean, like, their whole fucking plan failed, in my opinion. It was just ridiculous. I mean, it definitely, quote unquote, worked for some people. Just showed how out there and out of touch, and how sleeping with their eyes wide shut people are. But for the most part, I mean, it didn't work. So I mean, it's like, let's just move on here. Like, I mean, there's so much stuff coming out now, obviously, about the vax and this and that, but with regards to like masks and all these lockdowns and all these ridiculous restrictions, it's been shown that it's not doing anything. It doesn't work, and it's just causing us more difficulties than anything. So yeah, I agree. It's like, move on. Let's get back to try to get the rest of our freedoms back here and stop bickering over bullshit.
See, like, so that sounds really Canadian to me. Like the idea of being patient and waiting, and eventually the problem will go away because we're polite and patient about it. But what's ironic is Americans, like United States citizens, do that more. Where were our trucker protests in comparison? Really in comparison to Canada? Canada seemed to go further this time by saying, hey, we don't like what's going on. We want to stop this. It's messing with our actual lives in every way. I mean, so is that kind of an unusual thing for Canadians to have to just stand up and say, we don't like what's going on, we're not going to put up with it?
Well, yeah, I was just going to add that it's interesting because, I mean, you mentioned the United States, and you guys didn't kind of have your pushback on that, but I mean, it's kind of like you guys do a lot more protesting in general.
We're always
right?
just pushing.
Since moving to Toronto, I noticed that you see your protests here and there, but I think that Toronto and maybe Vancouver or areas in BC, and then maybe, for argument's sake, maybe around Montreal, those are probably kind of and Ottawa are kind of the hotbeds for protesting, and I'm sure more in the mid area, maybe Edmonton or something like that. You have other pockets, but
the more urban
still,
places
I don't think it amounts to, you know, you guys were like each individual state has its own shit going on, and it's you also have your national stuff going on. So I think it just amounts to a lot more. So it is a little bit different for us, especially from the point of view of people that don't live in cities like Toronto. Like for people living in my hometown, Thunder Bay, you don't necessarily see that much protesting going on. And if it does happen, you can go throughout your whole day or week without noticing it or seeing it or whatever, right? So yeah, I would agree to that.
What about the different partisanship of Canada? Like, is British Columbia and Thunder Bay and Toronto, like how, I mean, granted, parts of Canada speak different languages. So how different are BCers from, you know?
Well, I think when it comes to language, I could be wrong, but
not just language, but just in terms of being different kinds of people, you know?
Sure. I mean,
you guys are never like, oh, those Canadians over there, they're like, they drink too much. That's not a thing.
I would say that when people from Toronto,
the
the city, come to Vancouver, they're always struck by how unfriendly it seems because people are really reserved on the West Coast. I think there's like a strong like British institutional kind of politeness it's like old school British kind of culture or something that we're all, I don't know, trained in our schools with, I think. So anyway, there's a reserve and then a shyness, and then the sky is always gray, so we're kind of depressy. And then people like to stay home. We're all like, a lot of us are indoor kids or hiking or something like that, like harsh alternative in nature. So it's kind of freaks them out. People from Toronto, they're always complain that they seem rude or like they're too brash, and everyone's like afraid of them and they don't know if they're making friends, and like how long they stay is usually just a couple of years unless they really find their groove. But it seems uncomfortable for like most. And I know in the same thing with Alberta, they have a lot of Yahoo culture, like people indoors in the winter and like everybody's playing games and like drinking in like someone's basement or like some like underground bar thing, you know, like some like claustrophobic bar. So it's like really cute like culture, but it's not as friendly in that way here in some ways. Yeah.
The cold keeping people close.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about BC, but
I could be wrong, Melissa, but
yeah.
I have a friend, shout out to Tyler Jurek. He lives in BC. I forget the name of the little town, but he mentioned that he lives in a smaller little town, and it's a lot more laid back and more on the kind of hippie, free love, peace side.
Yeah.
So is it that you guys have like little pockets of cities that for those people to kind of migrate to, and then
absolutely,
like you mentioned, the rest of the areas kind of just has that overcast of that different ideology and that different presentation and level of manners or whatever. Yeah,
that's interesting. So yeah, regal.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like Southern Croatians are like, there's a cliche thing, Dalmatian bums kind of thing. People from Dalmatia, like there's like the trope. There's the trope of the guy, and there's always one who's just like here to live and just relax, you know. And that's a huge thing on the West Coast too. Yeah,
we have a lot of we have a lot of OCD Croats as well, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. I'm more genetically related to the other.
Kurt, though, you've met Canadians. What do you think of them? When was the first Canadian you've ever met? Do you remember?
My cousin-in-law is actually Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it spreads.
Was that?
So it spreads.
So they are out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody, Canada's just so like enmeshed with American culture to a certain degree. Like we can all name famous people that are Canadian. It's like, I think with there was a major like international trade deal that someone said it would basically made Canada our bitch, and I don't mean that insultingly. I mean, everything's so business oriented now. Yeah, everything's so business oriented now that if you we have this huge capitalist machine that tries to make everything subservient to that. So I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, but in terms of like world trade, it's like Canada has been made a sort of extension of the US. And we talked a little bit about how that integrates with media. We talked about that a week or 2 weeks ago on the Canada episode. So it's weird because the US gets so much media attention, but there's enough of an English speaking Canada base to where you would think they would get more proportional media attention. But anyways, my cousin-in-law is Canadian. He played baseball, and baseball, I guess, is still pretty prominent in Canada as well. And I guess he's a big dude, so I think he thought about, bouncing around some of the minor leagues, but he chose to have a family life instead. And he's always been a good guy. And there's enough of overlap to where like a lot of Canada doesn't have too much of a distinct like accent. So I actually I wouldn't have known he was Canadian unless he like
they like want to be Canadian. Like JJ McCullough like created the boot. He's like, I say a boot because I'm in Japan and I want people to know I'm not from the United States, which is fair because I did that when I didn't want people to think I was from the United States either. But it's not like any real Canadian says that I ever heard in real life besides JJ. Do you know any Canadians that say what's up? What's it all about then, eh? Has that ever happened to you ever?
Just when they're doing it on purpose.
Exactly. See what I mean? It just proves the point that they are British spies pretending to be Americans.
In the pot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did talk about this last time a little bit, but I want to expand for anyone who didn't look into the ICA, the Canadian Institute of Cultural Affairs, right? Which is a very important group. And a big thing here is to make Canadian culture its own culture. The tragedy being, because it's been defined by American culture, the only way to do it is say, well, we just reject Americanism, which leads to rejecting essentially what Americans embrace, and then embracing the propaganda machine that Americans have rejected. That's what it kind of feels like. So it's saying, hey, this is like this picture is like the 1990s Power Ranger picture. It is an extremely racist picture. You've got this designed in order to make sure there's not anyone of the same ethnicity next to each other. So there's this hubris of diversity, right? And then they are defined by their material corpses. I mean, this is a big part of what Canada is maybe ahead of the times in terms of progress, but really behind the times in terms of the post material into the spiritual side of the individual. Do you agree, or do you think I'm being too critical of Canada?
Justin Trudeau's dad had this whole thing back in the day of the mosaic is Canada, while America has the whole melting pot. Like, we're all American, but in Canada, it was like supposed to be celebrated like I am Croatian Canadian and other people are Indo-Canadian,
right.
Like there's like kind of a hashtag to like whatever
right.
your Canadian is, and it's supposed to be celebrated. And we like have community festivals like related to other people's culture, just like everywhere else, like in America, but it's supposed to be
nobody
celebrated.
likes it. I can't say I'm a Croat American without people being like, why are you, what's
your
point?
It weirds them out. Okay.
Yeah, what's your point?
Yeah. Here it's kind of normal. Like you almost want to, or something. You're like, I impulsively want to share it with everyone kind of thing.
Dude, Alanis Morissette's so Hungarian. That's awesome. Yeah. No, I like Canada for that. I mean, but you think the
That's
mosaic
Trudeau's
is
dad.
real?
I don't know. I think that they were trying to like give a bigger voice to the immigrant population, and then also make the immigrant population like voting liberal, because they do a lot of policy that favors immigration.
Mhm.
So it's like kind of like once you're in, you're like devoted for life to this party kind of thing, and that's like a huge number of people. So
how did
it's good, I think, but it's bad in some ways. Maybe it isolates some people or makes the culturalization process like a lot slower, like generationally for them, Yeah.
What was your immigration story, or your family's immigration story?
My mom came as a teen, so she's what is that called? It's like 1.5 gen, not first gen, but 1.5. And then my dad came older, so he's the first gen. And then I was born here. They met here in the community. My dad was like a soccer guy and like a hero carpenter guy, and just such an epic, like he was working since he was a child, like in the fields. So it's like he's so strong and like just cool, And then
why they go to Canada instead of to like
he could have
Venezuela?
gone from his region. He could have gone to Australia or Vancouver. He had a brother in Vancouver, so he came here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what did they, so you're saying they made it easier for immigration? Like what were some of the things that the Canadian government did that it made it easier or incentivized?
I think for my mom's family, they're probably some part of some kind of program, because I know for that many generations, but like my grandfather, his like the older generation than him, they used to come as migrant workers to do logging and come for periods of time and then leave and then come back and then leave. So it's like they did this multiple times. Like I only really learned this recently. And in the States and in BC. And then I guess there was some like movement to like allow immigrants to leave communism if they wanted to. I don't know. It was some sort of like program from Croatia and then Canada letting them all in, I guess, because they already came as migrant laborers. So and then my dad had more of like a kind of like had to go to a couple places, hop around first, kind of came as a trade person from with Austrian training and woodworking stuff, like veneer work and stuff. So then it was like, okay,
Yeah, have a skill. That's good.
Lots of skilled tradesmen. Yeah.
Thunder Boy. I'm gonna call Jordan because I just like that he's from Thunder Bay. What about you and your immigration scenario? How did your family get to Canada? Or to the Americas, even
like we talked about. Yeah, like we talked about. I think it was the last show. My both sides kind of go back.
Right.
There's a way. My dad's side, I have no idea, to be honest with you. You know what? Honestly, I'm gonna have to do some more research in my own family.
It's been erased, the erasure of history. But you said like on your mom's side it goes back like 4 generations, something like that, or it's been a long time.
About 4, yeah. And then I mean, all I can give you is like I remember there's a dilapidated castle in Scotland that belongs to the family. I think it's the Lucy family, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more research. So sorry I don't have more on my own own shit.
They've been erasing history forever, man, and that's a very American thing, at least, is to tell you like, you're American now. We were just saying that you don't have to remember anything that happened to your family, so you can forget. Kurt, as an American, you've gone through this. What do you think your family's immigration story is? How much do you know about that?
I know jack shit about my immigration story.
How American, right?
So my last name is German, and
his last name is Weidorfer, but it does sound German. I get your point.
Yeah. It there's a bunch of Weidorfer families. They're actually scattered throughout Pennsylvania, and I've never been able to like really trace back lineage at all. I only know my family history back to like my great grandfather. If I wanted to maybe track down more, maybe I could, but chances are the name is of some sort of German immigrants that came at some point.
Right.
I have very little understanding of my actual origins, except that I was born here. But I think people just kind of, that's more or less the norm. I think people kind of just accept that because just because there are so many different ethnic backgrounds throughout a variety of European countries, to where people just, not to sound racist, but if you're white, you generally don't care because you have the advantage.
Sounding racist, bud.
I didn't mean it.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's an objective metric of the East Coast. I mean, there's a lot of corruption and racism. I mean, I guess all over the world, but it does exist. There are neighborhoods and everything that are, the police prey on more,
Yeah, but you don't have much to look out for if you're from a small town on the East Coast. Like people do get looked at funny if they're like at the local gas station. We have people of Indian descent, and there's racist comments about them all the time. Like, don't go there. Literally, they say, the ragheads, like, whoa. People it's offensive. And like, I don't know. I feel like I talk to people sometime like, why don't you move the fuck away from there? Or like, well, because I'm broke as shit. That's why, you know.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point. There's a
Yeah.
lot of racism in the United States, but maybe it's not just racism. There's just a lot of like blunt, New Yorkerisms, like, hey, screw you, and people don't like each other all the time bluntly. It's not the politeness you hear about in Canada. Do you guys in Canada feel like you're experiencing? I mean, is there the kind of racism or kind of anxiety or turmoil that America has beyond just a protest, like what all that racism and everything else?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got racism.
Yeah.
Thunder Bay is pretty racist. Winnipeg's super racist.
Racist against black people, racist against natives, racist against French. What are they racist
Thunder
against?
Bay's, I think we have 1.3 black people in Thunder Bay, if I'm not mistaken. And
Million or just 1.3 person?
1.3, no, 1.3 buck. 1.3. That's a 1.3 figure. And then
Wow.
racist towards natives or aboriginals, whatever
Really?
term you like to use. And then I mean Winnipeg, I'd say both, if not everyone. I mean, I think they were rated one of the most racist city a few years back.
Wow.
Edmonton, I think, has kind of had its issues with racism. Or sorry, Calgary.
What are their issues with like the natives, because everyone's saying, hey, you Canada took the land of the natives, we should be nice to them. What am I missing?
It goes into that, and it goes into what we were talking about last week, the residential schools. So there's all this Truth and Reconciliation Council and investigations that have gone on in the past and that we're kind of still dealing with for the unforeseeable future, really. And it's, I mean, just like the legal system for the most part, when it comes to damages, or if you're looking at like the Alex Jones case or something, how do you fix a situation other than money, really, right? It always comes down to money, right? So a lot of these people, whether it's through tax exemptions or just handing out checks or whatever, that they're kind of raking in some cash, and sometimes they don't know how to spend it so well, so they kind of blow it on whatever, and they're all of a sudden they're kind of poor again, and they're driving around in these big fancy trucks, or they're causing other kind of issues. And of course, I mean, this doesn't go for everyone, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
it's just,
But there are some people that are jealous.
In our area, that's in Thunder Bay, that's definitely an issue. And it's turned into like violence. And I mean, there's I forget how many it was, but when the Aboriginal women went missing, the string of women, and there's a lot of the investigations into missing and dead children, Aboriginal children, and then there's a lot to deal with the police force that has dealt with some corruption. So there's a lot of stories kind of intertwined there.
Man,
yeah.
so yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Race related.
I think with Truth and Reconciliation, it started out as sort of presentations of those who were abused in schools, doing presentations to audience where they confessed their experience, and they were really powerful gatherings. And then now it's become, my sister was just explaining this to me yesterday, but it has become Orange Shirt Day. And that's what First Nations people celebrate on the same day. And that's where there's, I think, 97 goals or decrees or something that they want changed in the way Canada deals with First Nations communities and populations. So it's like they're asking for like these 97 things to help address I think it's 97.
I can't help but think about Luther's 97 thesis.
Oh,
the House of Orange, right? Because the Orange Nassau house, right? And it just seems to me like there might be a connection.
I hope I'm not conflating the two numbers, but it's like maybe if you can find it, Orange Shirt Day, like decrees or something. I don't know, whatever.
Orange Shirt Day, 30th of September. Oh, that was recent. And
then there's like a big list. I don't know where they put it, but or what it's
about us, fill a story, what's new, Historical Society events, partnership, Jersey resources.
This is just like a special group or something.
What was the thing I could type in? Orange Shirt Day Canada, and then
try decrees. I think that's the word.
That's a
I'm
funny
not-
word.
I know. I don't know if that's what it is.
Orange shirt day. Orange shirt day. Decree. No. 90.
Orange shirt
97.
day. I'm gonna Google it too.
Government recognition, history, truth, reconciliation, official shirts. It doesn't say like a goals list. We should have a goals list. I don't
Oh
know.
darn. But it's really basic stuff. It's sort of like, address legislation related to children and like I guess like any sort of services that are sort of now imposed. It's sort of like reform these things because they're not working and they have roots that are abusive. So like do it our way kind of thing.
This is kind of interesting. National Day for
yeah.
Truth, Reconciliation Scandal was first observed federal holiday 2021. On the first year it was observed, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had been invited to spend the day with the Tk'emlúps te Secwépemc, I tried, nation near the place. The first Indian residential school unmarked graves were discovered earlier that year, and we could probably do well to look at that. Trudeau ignored the invitation, and his schedule showed him having meetings in Ottawa that day. However, Trudeau instead took an unannounced private holiday in Tofino, British Columbia, attracting widespread criticism from the public and media like the Coup Pip 7. Roseanne Cashmere of the tribe described his lack of attendance as a gut punch to the community. Well, he's not Trump. What do you want? But I mean, so there's this holiday, and it's associated with orange, which is weird. Do you guys have any idea why it's orange?
Oh, I found it. 94 calls to action.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the
94
calls to action.
97.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm sorry. I totally should have been able to tell you that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I totally thought you were talking about something else.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not good at explaining these.
94 calls to action, and I can't even find does he count it down? Reconciliation, call to action. We call upon the government of Canada to replace the oath of citizenship with the following. I swear or affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen, or can't we all have to work on that, her heirs and her successors. Oh, that's fixed. And then that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada, including treaties with Indigenous peoples, and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Interesting. The monarchy is, of course, supreme. Like this, the native contracts are it's like the laws of robotics, right? Unless it interferes with the first law. And we call upon the federal government in collaboration with the national Aboriginal organizations to revise the information kit for newcomers to Canada and citizenship test to reflect a more inclusive history of the diverse Aboriginal peoples of Canada. Okay, so moving into that, what do you think this is about? Do you think this is really to help Canada, or is this to establish this Canadian culture outside of? And I asked this really because let me see where that article went.
Help the image of Canada.
Will Canada cut ties to the monarchy under King Charles? It's possible, right? And there's been some talk of this. The death of Queen Elizabeth.
I highly doubt that.
I know. I don't.
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so.
So elaborate. I mean, because like, why are the Anglophiles of Canada so down? What's the deal?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think it's gonna happen. So why are the Anglophiles not down? Like, what do you ask?
No, I mean,
why
well,
are they
I'm
into
just saying
the?
I doubt it's gonna
why are they-
happen when they cut ties. Like, I
Why
mean,
are-
it's just seems like bullshit drama made up to.
Why are
get some
the
clicks
why are
and
the
sell
British
papers.
why are the Canadians so interested in being part of Britain still that they would want to keep the Queen? And
Oh, tradition. It's just something that's kept going, I think, to be honest with you. I mean, no one wants to maybe no prime minister, no government or administration wants to be the one to put their foot down. Maybe it goes kind of, if you take a step back into the deeper state side of things,
Right.
the elites, maybe it's something to do with that, where it's like, no, this is how we have it. Maybe it's
a checks and
maybe it's
balances for the Virginia company to make sure
maybe
that
it's
it's not
the
too
front
crazy.
to keep appearances going for something. But for whatever reason, it's obviously important enough that it's like, okay, we're going to keep it going as the status quo.
Loyal to the British monarchy, Canada's evolution as a modern state centered on its loyalty to British Crown, a clear alternative to the American experiment as a democratic republic nearly a century earlier. The American Revolution was premised on an explicit violent rejection of the crown in favor of a presidential form of government. Whatever its problems and failings, it was a great moment for human innovation. But despite staying loyal to the crown, Canada would begin to drift away from the British crown 100 years later. So you guys have drifted. You guys have more and more control, I guess, of yourselves, theoretically. I mean, the Queen owns the government, or the King owns the government, basically. Is that the deal? It's like
Yeah, and all
property?
the public property too. So it's
So,
like
I mean-
you can camp on crown land here. Like it's like some kind
Oh.
of weird. Yeah, it's some kind of weird no man's
That's
land or something.
That's feudal. Okay.
Yeah, it's really weird here.
The recent decision by the Caribbean island of Barbados to abandon the monarchy and become a republic like portends similarly outcome to Jamaica, Antigua, and Barbuda and elsewhere in the region. So I mean, this is a thing where a lot of the other Commonwealth states are doing it. Why is Canada so different than Bermuda or Barbuda?
Economics
We're-
of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah, we're a bigger nation, and just how the economics and how the puppet strings are being pulled, and
We're in
you
too
know,
deep.
that's right.
Yeah.
Some quoting some 41.
Right. That was... Do you guys know that song, Sum 41?
I mean, I'm trying to keep up afloat in my head instead of going under.
Come on,
No.
man, we're
Yeah.
doing Canada here.
I know.
I do love that song. I mean, the real irony though is that he wasted his time in the trying not to become a victim of another casualty of society. That was really the tragedy in Sum 41's life. He just did exactly what he didn't want to do. But okay, we did mention this in life. Oh, another thing about Sum 41. I mean, is he like literally like a hobbit? Like, is there a picture of that? Can I show this? Because he's just so, I mean, he's amazing, but he's just, where is it with it? Is his giant model? Every time I ever saw a picture of him, I can't find it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, his girlfriends are always like 7 feet tall, and he's like, there it is, right? That's
Yeah.
like good for you, bro. Like that's the Canadian dream. I think.
Shout out to the girl in that hat, though. I like a sexy girl in a sexy hat like that. That's cool.
Yeah, dude, cowboy hats. All right, RCMP
Oh,
spy
no.
saw one. No, I'm
No,
down.
not cowboy hats.
I'll take
Cool
a
hats.
I'll take a Mennonite hipster in a cowboy
First of all,
hat
I
with
want
a
to just
squirt gun full of
hedge
whiskey.
something. Okay,
Sure.
like Canada has like less conspiracy theories and more just like absolutely tragic stories that like people know are real. And I feel like we don't have conspiracies. We have like truth that's just so harsh.
And
Yeah.
open, yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, so trying to find you can't type Canada conspiracy. You type in Canada disclosure, Canada
Yeah.
brutality, Canada crime, Canada unclosed, Canada spies, whatever. And then there's I guess the reason is because there's less reason to lie to you because they have the right to do this, right? They can do what they want.
Right.
All of the, I mean, this is in America, people freaked out. They're like, oh, Patriot Act. They're going into our knitting circles, and in Canada, they're like, here's a new book you can read about how the government really
Right.
missed the social ideological truths. They were so interested in communism, they didn't even see the beauty behind the movement, right?
Canadians have to find really creative ways to murder people since they don't have guns. And if you look up some of the,
We have guns. We have
There's-
guns.
well, you do, but it's like anytime
Thunderbolt,
you have
yeah.
like a mass murder. I remember specifically, I don't know if you remember, but there was a guy who posed as an officer to commit all of his murders. I
Oh,
forget where
God.
that was.
Mhm.
I
Early
remember-
pandemic. Mhm.
It was
Right.
during the pandemic. Yeah.
Mm.
Like, and how many people did he murder during that spree?
A
18?
bunch of
I was gonna
families. Yeah.
say- Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yep.
I think this is
Yeah.
it. I know there's been a few since then. That's the thing. Is Canada's not without
Well,
shooters.
that's kind of a conspiracy theory they never really
I
addressed.
sent you an
because
article too, Andreas. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
They mentioned that he was paid a certain way, or some money entered his account that was like some kind of secure type of funds that like usually that's like the kind of secure payment that only goes to like government factions or agents or something like that. It was something really weird, like the money came off the Brinks truck or something, like I don't know. And then they openly talked about that and then kind of just were like hiding what he might have been like an informant for police or something, and then like just also went crazy. I don't know. It was remember
that-
I don't remember, they kind of just skirted over that, and then they like brought in all these rules about like weapons in Canada right after, because he used like I don't know, super guns or
Right. That's the thing. So what was this Canadian getting $50,000 worth of armor?
Better outlaw military grade weapons after this one.
Yeah, but they didn't, and it was only certain ones. I don't know. Everyone complains about this stuff.
That's a make the public feel better type of policy.
And they did the same thing with handguns after something else recently too. So then everyone's like, so many people are buying handguns, and there's going to be so many handguns. Like, I work in Vancouver's downtown east side, where it's like for supportive housing and drug user housing, and it's challenging on already, and then now with this kind of thing where it's like they're banning handguns, there's like this influx in the market of handguns now. So now we have to worry, I guess, that they're going to be floating around this
Yeah, but
community.
you all got some 3D printers, so you can't stop progress.
Oh, please.
But
Yeah, but nobody has the cord for it, you know, like it's like chaos.
Oh yeah. Stephen Paddock was the American mass murderer who perpetuated the 2017 Las Vegas shooting, cited by 4 sources. So you can't deny Wikipedia, right? But he has an interesting backstory, you know, and most of the witnesses you can't ask about it because they died mysteriously within the months afterwards of just like, you know, heart attacks and random stuff. And, you know, that's totally not an MK Ultra drugged out face, by the way. That's not what that is. No, definitely not. But I mean, born in Clinton, Iowa, which is a scary name for any place or thing, and moved to Los Angeles. And then, so the whole story, his connection with the IRS, Postal Service. By the way, federal postal agents do stuff. I don't think people realize the way the Royal Canadian Mountie Police.
Stuff, all right.
Dude, I mean, they know where everybody lives. Dogs think they're evil. Not all of them are, but some might be. And it's important to know that the federal post office is, anytime, I remember it was at a Snoop Dogg concert on a Sunday, and there was like 6 post trucks up and down the street. And I'm like, it's a Sunday. What do you guys do? It's like, come on, don't be so obvious. I mean, but then there was a huge bust in the club. Paddock worked for 3 years as an internal auditor for a company that later merged to form Lockheed Martin. So he worked for, you know, one of these military contracted companies. And this is the kind of story that we're supposed to say, okay, well, don't ask questions. Don't look into this. It's the same thing in Canada. You've got these characters. The news tells you what's going on. That one's a bit more specific. You had this one, though, Jordan. What's the story with Courtney LaBelle?
Yeah, shout out to Mother Love. My mom has sent me this one. She's back in Thunder Bay. She's big in the legal scene. So, yeah, we had this mom who stabbed her 11-year-old son to death. Says she was on drugs. So that was her defense, that she was on drugs. But yeah, the jury wasn't having it. So I think there's 31 stab wounds, 2 of which went to the heart. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, the amount of people that you saw, like last week we showed, what's her name? What's that lady who's the most hated lady in Canada?
I don't know.
Gosh, Carla Homolka, right?
Oh, Homolka,
Oh,
yeah.
that story is so spooky.
Yeah, I know this is like, we kind of cover this, but every Canadian who hears it's like, yeah, I heard about this, but most Americans don't really know the whole deal, right? That there's a couple that were kind of elite and they had enough money and they were going around, the husband had become the Scarborough Strangler, and this was allowed to continue for like a long time, several years, right? They didn't
it started with the sister. Her sister, I think, was the first. It may not have been Paul's first victim, but it was the first. I believe it was the first person that they kind of killed together, and they were in on it together.
I mean, it has this very royal reptilian, like, what's that? Rockefeller.
There's a good movie on it. Donna from that 70s show, Laura Prepon, she plays Carla.
I feel like it reminds me of, you know, those stories that always come out in America, like Elizabeth Smart, you know, like the weird guy with like the shed in the ground. Like, I feel like it's about as elite as that kind of person.
Well, that's a good question, though. I mean, so that's the thing. They put it out in the media. All Canadians heard about this, made it seem like it was the only time in Canada that anything like this ever happened. But we also have a Canadian guy kills hookers. What was his name? You know,
the Picton farm, which
was prostitutes of pigs,
which they don't know if it's associated with like they used to throw parties there for like,
right? He did jam band parties and stuff.
Yeah, with like heavy drugs and gang related stuff. So it's like they don't know if it was like some kind of fetish thing or something. I don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're mostly all prostitutes that were kind of getting older, and were not all of them, but
yeah, and just like girls like coming to party and stuff too. Like they're just sort of, you know, not respected and like in community, I guess, or like publicly, I guess. Like, so they just call them prostitutes, but it's like whatever. They're just chicks hanging out, you know.
Did they do a deep,
and they like do a little bit of drugs, like whatever, people do drugs, you know.
They did a background on this dude, Robert Picton, and he you know, he was pretty successful before this. He was he'd
Yeah.
done a lot of important things. He's a popular member of his society. He's born to a family of pig farmers. There was something there that connected him to the British government in his early teens. He went to some kind of his mother died the following year, leaving Picton Farm, and his two siblings, Linda and David, did not want the farm. David took over the house and began running the farm on his own in the remote area of the properties. So he's kind of isolated at a certain point. They're making it seem like he's just this crazy guy who's all alone, and they don't put in the main description about how was put into like one of these police orphanage, a juvie system. And so I wonder, do you think, I mean, every one of these scenarios that we've talked about, it's like Charles Manson. They've gone through some crazy conditioning of some kind. And we talked a bit about the residential schools. I mean, do you think it's like on purpose? Do you think there's some psychological trauma intentionally, or are they just like evil people?
Well, I work with a lot of people who are like escaping, I guess, charges, and like they'll talk to me about that. And
elaborate. What?
Oh, well, in the housing, it's like sometimes people will just stay home a lot because they have a charge against them and they don't want to leave, you know? So you end up talking to them quite a bit about like what's going on with them.
What?
And then you try to
Can you-
convince.
That work?
Can you explain that more?
So
What?
my-
So if I stay home, I don't get
They
arrested?
haven't been around, so
Okay,
you know, we
so
can't
there's
bust them.
laws. Yeah,
can't just
there's
come to your
laws.
house and
like,
arrest
the
you?
cops can't just burst in. They need a warrant, and they're not likely to get a warrant against a person with certain charges. So it's like they sort of hide for a while sometimes, you know, and then you're like, you're so much in pain, like you can't even leave the house, like, you know, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you'll sort of talk to them, like maybe just, you know, cooperate and then just complete your charges and da 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 da. But like,
is the pain because they're from drug withdrawals, or what do you mean by pain?
oh yeah, and like have
Yeah.
to still like hustle that, you know. So it's like, how do you hustle that when you can't leave the house, right? So it's sort of just this tortured period for them. And then anyway, it's just funny, but you'll talk to them and they'll tell you like, this is not a therapeutic environment, you know, because you sort of think like, oh, do the charges, you know, and like do the things that you're supposed to kind of do. And like, maybe, you know, you'll get some insights about where you're going wrong, because they, you know, like where you're going wrong or what you could possibly learn. And the stories I hear about what it's like to be in jail are more horrendous than they're terrifying. They're terrifying. And it sounds awful. I think you can avoid it, like if you choose like to just be so stoic and like resilient or something. Like maybe you can just be like, no, blinders on, like don't come at me with this bullshit kind of thing. But I don't know, I hear horrible stories, especially people who were charged with something that put them in prison like from childhood. Those institutions sound really awful. Not a lot of education going on, not a lot of like resources for growth, unless maybe you're some kind of star student or something, you know. It's really bleak.
I mean, so, but in general, like in America, what I found was, you know, the businessmen pay to make the schools run a certain way to teach the ants how to find sugar, so they don't have to watch the ants find the sugar. And you want hungry people willing to work. So you get those people and train them. You can get some rich kid and try to teach him math, but it's like, what's the point? He's not going to be willing to suffer for you, you know. And you don't want 1 million people to interview. You want like 3 people to interview. You don't want just one person to interview. But you don't want
it's
to
not
interview
even
the whole
like
day.
psychology based. It's like, okay, so you have people who are like, okay, they're like, what is that called? Sociopath. Okay. So what's the trauma of a sociopath? They essentially like authority when they were young, violated their sense of like autonomy, or like showed that they were not like a trustworthy authority. Like it's like that kind of like, you look at your parents and you see God or whatever kind of thing. Kids get that security from them, and it helps them normalize and rationalize things and calm their feelings and stuff. It's like something happened where it's like, that didn't have that, they didn't get that kind of like attunement, and they developed a coping mechanism that's like a pathology that's like, okay, well, I'm just going to take what's mine and I'm going to outsmart everyone and I'm going to survive, you know, like I'm going to do better. And then you put them in jail, and then like they're trying to do school, and then there's some perverted weirdo like, you know, like teaching the class, like taking favors and like not even teaching the lesson and just being creepy, like was sexual with someone.
You've watched
or whatever.
Animal Factory. You've watched the movie Animal Factory.
No, I've talked to
Steve
people.
Buscemi. I mean,
No,
What
I
is the-
talked to people who like experience this or
What is
like
that movie, Animal Factory, though? I've
it's
never
like
heard of that.
whoa, and
Pri-
it's like
prison
so
movie.
then but so then it's like you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
trigger that shit, and it's like how are you now you have no sense of you're even more
There you go.
surviving, you know. I'm sure
Because
this
there's
is
a
accurate.
scene,
Like
that exact scene in that movie, the Tom Arnold scene in the classroom where he's
yeah,
What?
the women
Edward Furlong,
it's
William
awful.
Dafoe, and Tom Arnold. This is
yeah,
like,
buddy. And Steve Buscemi directed it, and he's in it too. He plays the not the warden, but he plays like
I
don't
love
know. I
Edward
forget.
Furlong. He's
how
such
the
a
maple
It's a
did I
great movie.
miss
It's a
this?
great movie,
Yeah.
man. It really is.
I will be watching
Mickey
that.
Rourke plays a drag
What?
queen,
I
tranny.
love Mickey Rourke too.
Steve Buscemi's a genius.
There's a couple
I
other
mean,
good actors in it. It's a great movie, man. It's definitely a gem.
dude. I mean, so but is the Canadian prison experience as violent and as horrible? I mean, because you think about how they put people in these closed
been.
homes. Okay, fair. But Melissa, you were saying you interact with people that might go to jails. I mean, what do you
Melissa
think of it?
seems to know. Yeah.
Well, I just seem to know people's firsthand experiences of sort of like why it didn't work well for them, or like just the notable things they remember about it that they're like, I didn't finish my school and kind of because of this, or like they're not even really like telling tall tales. They're just sort of like talking about like the trajectory of their lives and just mention these sort of bizarre or like horrible things they lived through. Yeah.
Is there as much of a like grooming aspect as there are in like U.S. prisons? Okay,
Maybe.
like
Oh,
Yeah.
the group stuff. Yeah. There's like group stuff for sure. Yeah, to survive or
like,
whatever. Yeah. You
there
get
is
bullied and da 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 da. Yeah.
well, there's a specific video I'm thinking of. It was I'm pretty sure it's a real video where the guy he talks about I'm trying to think of the words he was using, but he's literally describing the process of like literally like using jelly from like the lunchroom and then like eating each other's butts out. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
no.
Nice,
They wouldn't
nice,
share
alright.
that story with me because I'm me, right? They're not gonna just start telling me something like that.
right, but then like you have this perversion that
You might.
seems like it's so
No.
normalized in the American prison system.
Right. Yeah.
where,
I
like-
mean, prison is all about getting raped. It's literally when every American thinks of prison as a place where you
Aw.
go to get raped.
Oz,
There's like that
baby.
power stuff,
I don't
right?
know
So
every
it's like,
American, but I think
it's
that's
just like
what-
that power thing and like group power stuff, and it's like super toxic, and it's like not what being a normal citizen in society, like when you're civilized or whatever, it's not therapeutic, because it's like when you're out you're supposed to be like, oh, we're all like responsible and like doing laws and like being appropriate and like polite and like following the rules and like showing up on time, and then you get this fucking experience that's like, what? This is a totally different system. So you're not even learning like how to face reality,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you could say the way we structure society, it forms its own sort of prison, and some people like to poo-poo on that idea.
Yeah.
But really, like, what are our schools and how are schools designed? In Pennsylvania, like, we actually had a lot of our schools were designed by the same person that was designing prisons. Like, everything is designed to be, we're supposed to be a factory society where people are, they're trained to run the machines.
I guarantee in Canada, it's the same thing, because if
I mean-
you're
Yeah,
if you're a
it is,
civic, if you're a civic,
essentially.
if you are, I guarantee all over the world, if you're a civic architect, you're going to be building prisons and schools and other, civic buildings. If you're almost, and I studied this once in California, all of the buildings in the area of Santa Cruz that were built, the prison, the mall, the police station, all of these corporate headquarters for Silicon Valley, all built by similar guys. They built the same guy, and you could check out one architect's name and see he'd have a prison, a school, a hospital, a number of these, parking structures. Almost all of them do a parking structure before they do that. And I'd mentioned at one point, I had a friend in Arizona. They had built a brand new school for them because the school got too big of a population, and they decided that the school that they had built, the brand new one, was too good to be used as a school, and the prison needed it. So they moved the kids to the old prison building, and they moved the prisoners to the new school.
God.
So, I mean, that is America, but it is the world. That is the world in general.
I mean, if this is what it is all the time, why don't they just make us if they want us to be some sort of militant citizens or something, like why don't we just do that since childhood? Go to like military schools. Like I don't understand.
Maybe you don't want everyone to be a soldier. You know what I mean?
I
Like
guess
you have to pick people you want to be weak.
There's a
God.
middle ground compromise there. Like we could either, you can be militaristic in two different senses. Like you in Switzerland, everybody has mandatory military service, but it's dumbed down military service.
They are trying to destroy that though. Also, Switzerland is under attack. But yeah,
I think Switzerland is a great fucking example of how a country should be run. That's just my personal bias.
It really was up until like the year 2000 when they changed the constitution. They had a brand new constitution that won by 51%, replaced their 200-year-old constitution, which they'd, by the way, been the country that had never been in a war before. And ever since then, just look at how Switzerland's been involving itself with the European Union and trying to make itself and then, trying to take away services for people. The whole point of learning how to use a Swiss Army knife is because you might need a drink in battle time. And I think the Swiss are the only people that really, they took that Germanism to a French place. And I like that.
Yeah, pretty crazy. What we were talking about, what were we talking about? Why did I bring up Switzerland?
Countries that are
military.
Oh, yeah.
Israel would be a good example of that, I think, if you want to look for really militarized country.
Yeah.
Just
there's that sort of like militarization, and that's like the very light integrated type of, that's the integrated type of militarization that isn't extreme and isn't teaching people to focus all your energy on war, where that I think that's a high contrast to like a Spartan society where you're raising people to like specifically be extremely defensive and offensive. I think it depends. You could have essentially a socialist military. In some senses, every military is socialist too.
France has got such a humanitarian wing to their army. They go all over the world and they do their little things. They help people.
And the average person there just lives off of such a low income, like their income cap is really low. So people are quite militant in their existence over there.
Yeah, but also like get the food local. Like the prices are capped for brie and brie is $1. That's legit.
They only eat at mealtime. Okay, they don't snack.
They have 6 meal times though. I don't know. But I mean, okay. So in general, Canada has been following in the American footsteps, we think, but there's also this idea of militarization. It's a smaller population. You look at Israel, is easy to militarize Israel, and the product of Israel is impressive, regardless of people's ideological opinions about Israel. They've taken a population, they've turned them into super soldiers, some of them, and a lot of them are pretty organized, and that's not to be underestimated. But maybe are we already turning people into soldiers, a different kind of soldier? Because you've got all these liberal justice, social justice warriors, right? Isn't social justice warrior kind of and a lot of people go through the same Marine-like experience. They sleep on a mattress with 13 people, they run together, they get yelled at. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like it is the Marines to become.
Sometimes the residents call you soldier affectionately too, because we're soldiers in the war on drugs.
Yeah, I always say I think it's bad to drink or drive or fight a war on drugs.
But some people are very strong soldiers actually in that environment.
Yeah. I mean, being a soldier, like, what does it mean to be a soldier versus a warrior? I mean, we're just talking about how some soldiers can do. War does not make one great. You could be in peace,
Maybe just discipline and like resilience. I don't know.
I mean, but that seems like kind of Canadian people, like from what Jordan said earlier about, now it's time. We've been waiting and we've been patient, and now it's time for this to be over. Doesn't that sound like resilience and discipline? Maybe it's like embedded in a sense. Is that different? I got like a over there from Kurt. What do you thinking?
Oh, I wasn't. You would have to repeat that for me. Sorry, because.
Well, I mean, are we embedded as being? Are the Canadians embedded in being warriors from Degrassi and television?
We're Care Bears.
They're running the friggin' Canadians, Quebecer. Yeah,
we are raised on Care Bear Countdown. Okay, and we care. Okay, we're caring warriors. That's what we are.
I think you can be militantly polite. Like we're so brainwashed into being polite to where it doesn't actually mean anything. And I don't mean that just for Canada. It might extra be the case with Canada. But the U.S. is very much that way. The more the more you can be plastic and put on a face, the more you will succeed. I mean, succeed in a very shallow sense of the term. It's where you can get those entry level jobs. You can get those service jobs. You can be a bartender and pretend to be nice to people and make a lot of tips. So you'll succeed in that way. And then if you have the correct programming in order to maybe move up the ladder, if you jump through the other appropriate hoops where you spend tens of thousands of dollars on education, and then you fight for all that just to get yourself into a longer social contract, into thinking that your label defines what you should do and what your meaning should be. So it really is it's a cyclical prison in a lot of ways, the system that we have, and that overrides Canada automatically too.
Dude, these poor Care Bears, like this is what Canada really feels like to me.
Yeah.
I feel like they're all these poor Care Bears that have been through a lot. But you know, we try to talk about a Canadian movie at least every time. I think that's a rule. And Care Bears is a good one. I mean, we did preface this last time because we talked about Nelvana and how Nelvana, the greatest animation company the CIA and MI6 ever made out of Disney, they created Rock and Rule, and Rock and Rule is the, you know, Disney-esque mutation where in the future, after the fall of society, this occult rocker does his Canadian Idol tour, finds a woman in Ontario or ohmTown or whatever, and you know, she wins the contest. He wires her to the circuit board. As predicted by prophecy, her voice will open the demon that he has to feed his audience to. It's a great Canadian movie that went bankrupt and couldn't really be distributed very well in the United States. But because of that when they went bankrupt, they had to make their money back and they made the Care Bears. And so the Care Bears, that is why. And the Care Bears is interesting because it has the facade of being, you know, the Canadian government probably said, dude, don't do this creepy like Rock and Rule stuff. I know you want to talk about Satanism. Just, you know, do it in, make a cartoon that parents will buy their kids. And all the parents are like, oh yeah, cute, colorful, the right color tones. These are all colors that kids' rooms were being painted at the time, like the gender neutral color scheme and everything. But the Care Bear movie is so dark, dude. Like, let me just, you guys recall? I mean, like, let me see if I can get the movie. Like some of the images there. Where's that kid? The spell book. Okay, so basically there's this little creepy ginger kid and he finds this creepy book, and in his book there's a witch's face and all kinds of runes that are projected out of the book, and when he reads it, the face gets more powerful, and as he puts more of his soul into the book, the witch gets more powerful, but he starts to die. And by the end of this story, he's become mean. He's become kind of crazy. In fact, this is him now, like, you know, but then he dies because the part of the magic is to fully take all of his essence and kill him so that the book can become a living corporeal witch again, as foretold by the Care Bears prophecy. Of course, this movie's aged what, 4 to 6, I think is the age they want kids to watch it. But and then, you know, he dies. That kid died. One.
Okay, go up with the swing and the roses.
I mean, like the Stairway to Heaven.
Russian friend.
Where's the rose one you saw?
It's just a little bit up.
Did they go past it?
Childhood Ends, the Care Bears on the right, top right corner.
Les Bisonniers.
What's happening
Le
here?
film.
Oh, it's so small.
Oh, this is the one? Okay. That's why I didn't even see it.
It was pretty for a minute.
Yeah, and the kids are walking through this like world on the Rainbow Road. Is this the Quebecer? That's how you guys call it? Le Bourdieu. I like that. Well, so the kid dies. Let me see if I can find a picture of the dead boy. Is that gonna work?
They killed the kid.
Oh yeah, totally. And this is
whoa, he's glowing.
Right. So anyway, he loses his soul first, then he starts to die, and then the Care Bears are like, dude, this is like getting dark here. Like we're social justice warriors.
Storms are brewing.
Get the gummy bears and their alchemical formula because we don't know what to do. And eventually they're like, dude, we care. That's a big power that we have. We're Care Bears, so we care. We're gonna care so hard. We're gonna bring this boy back to life. But it's not working. It's not working. The kids at home are all watching this cassette tape. They rewind it to make sure they got it right. It's not working. The kid's still dead. And so all of a sudden, the Canadian Bears, they stare you in this face. They break that fourth wall there, and they say, whoa. Kids at home, we don't have enough power. We don't have enough care. Perhaps if all the kids at home cared and they believed with us. Hold your hands, kids. Let's do the spell. We care. We care. We care. And you got kids. Like, I remember I was with like
Holy shit,
kids
dude.
like they were around my age and they were like freaking out, like at the edge of their seat at 5 years old. We care.
Oh, that's so cute.
Do you know
Yeah,
the
but it's
release of that
also
episode?
esoteric as F. But yeah.
But
Sorry.
that's a good thing, no? Isn't it a good kind of esoteric? Or no?
I will spend the rest of my life wondering that about Nelvana, because
Right.
they also did the Devil and Daniel Webster. No, Mouse. Sorry, Devil and Daniel Mouse is their a really, really fascinating story behind the story of hey,
I
I
haven't
just
seen
met
this.
you and this is crazy. So here's my number. What's her name?
Carly Rae
Call me
Jepsen.
baby.
So this is about Carly Rae Jepsen and Justin Bieber in 1978.
What? Did they have a
well,
story together?
No,
Oh.
imagine it though.
Oh wow, this looks so good though. Look
Oh
at
yeah,
that.
I have
The
Awesome.
devil.
I have some
Yeah.
cells and frames from the original animation somewhere. I don't know where they are, but like, yeah, I care about this. And the deal is the devil
Ooh.
is this Americanist or maybe this Toronto corporate record label holder kind of guy, but it's the Canadian devil, you know, but he's got this American kind of accent or attitude. And these poor, I want to say Saskatchewan, but I don't know like where they're from. They could be from BC, but these two little Canadian mice, and they end. I mean, maybe the dude's from Newfoundland. I could not be too surprised by the way he talks. But they have great music and everything else, and then they
Cool.
sell out. They sell their souls so that they could to the record label, the Canadian record label. And the devil's not super interested in Daniel Mouse. He's more interested in the female pop star, the Carly Rae Jepsen character. And so her life is turned upside down. Satan glamorizes everything. It's very Faustian. And at the end there in the courtroom, what wins is the music of Canada, which is like an interesting thing also. I don't know what that really means, but Canadian music is pretty interesting in and of itself. But so Devil and Daniel Mouse doesn't seem too evil to me, because it's all about defeating the devil with the power of your heart and telling Canadians to be damned careful you know, of dealing with record labels or big money or any of that other stuff. Maybe that's a good. So it's hard for me to say Nelvana is evil. And the idea they're teaching Care Bears to kids to make them do ritual magic to bring people back to life with empathy. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? Is it that? Are you how spiritual are Canadians?
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, in psychology, I'm reading some textbooks on it, and they'll always say like education, awareness, like non-discrimination towards this, or what is it, negative sort of you know, cultural cultural judgment or whatever, you know, whatever that is.
This picture
Biases.
is Canada, right? No
Yeah,
bias.
so it's kind of like educate, like get over the fear, like learn that, you know, like mental illness shouldn't be stigmatized. It's just having a flu, you know, in your brain or something, you know, or whatever. It's just like calm down kind of thing, and educate yourself and don't like perpetuate ignorance is kind of, I think, the goal. But like, I guess where it gets stressful is when you have things where they change like laws and policy and people are like, what, you know, like don't push that on me, you know. So
Don't tread on me.
yeah, and it's kind of like, okay, so where do we put the education in and then where do we take it away, that kind of
Well, what about
thing.
this idea of like, so there's the equity of Canada, the idea that every Canadian has kind of equal opportunity, but is that true to any extent? Last week we talked a bit about the is it the
Just
Laurentian
that
River?
American dream bullshit kind of whitewash story.
Yeah, you guys got some elite. What's the elite versus the non-elite like? What's the dynamic in Canada for that?
Old money in Canada.
Old
Ours
money.
are just a little less. Yeah, ours are. I know the whole point. Most of the point for the elite is to be, for the most part, unknown. But ours are, I guess you'd say, more unknown than Americans.
Mhm.
I mean, when it comes to politics and somewhat true crime and scandals and celebrities and Hollywood and da. Canada likes the American shit, right? Like
Yeah.
it just goes back to our discussion that we kind of opened with. Almost is like Canada is America, and we're kind of, you know, and
Yeah.
to just make my comment on that, I mean, I don't know what the problem is that we have such a similar culture. I mean, I think we should just embrace that. I don't think there should be an issue with that. I mean,
I like that
have
I like how different it is though. Like for me,
we have our
when I-
differences. Yeah, I was just gonna say we have our differences and we can embrace those, but we don't have to try to
yeah.
shy from the fact that there are similarities too.
No, yeah, I think that's a
Mhm.
huge thing with all of humanity we should do. But there is
A
something
lot of the rich people, their children, it's like disproportionately their children have been like held hostage. Like a child of theirs have been
What?
abducted and like held
Oh.
hostage for a period of time. Like that's like really big in the stories of the millionaires of Canada or billionaires or whatever.
interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that any of those examples might be like laundering, or do you think in general like there's just more rich?
I
people
think it's
getting-
real. Like it's like their
Huh.
kids like hanging out on some island and just farting around, and then they're just like, okay, let's just take this kid
Oh
for
yeah.
as hostage and hold
I
a
remember-
ransom, and then you'll never find us. And I don't know if they find them.
Huh.
Like I can't even remember. There's been some crazy stories though. Yeah.
I feel like that wouldn't work so well in the U.S. Well, it's because like
yeah, why not? Yeah.
my perception is like we do have like a lot of trust fund situations. Like being near a major university has taught me a lot about the culture. Like I honestly hate the university town. I think maybe they're all the same, and I would just hate all of them. But there's definitely cases of privilege. But like rich people, the people that actually own all the shit here, it's like they don't teach their kids shit about dick. Their kids are morons. Like they don't teach them how to like manage anything. So it's like if they got kidnapped, they'd be like, all right, keep the motherfucker. I hate him.
Right.
Like,
I think it's a big thing about
happens, yeah.
Americans. Americans to just be like, you know what? I was already going to cut you off. I wasn't going to let you go to college and make you pay. You know,
it's your problem, motherfucker.
Yeah, it depends. They're probably better negotiators.
somebody, I think it was Beach Dream asked about Hyperionism. Wasn't a super chat, but I'll take it. The idea of the Hyperionism. I remember this guy Morg actually when I lived in Venice Beach, and so the story is Grand Poobah of Hyperionism, Morg, a shock artist who
Poobah.
performed at the Venice Beach Freak Show in Southern California before it closed in 2017. All the years we will remember, and
Grand
formerly starred on the.
Poobah.
Yeah, right. Do you ever watch that? Okay, gosh, little Canadian
Freak
tangent
show.
there.
Mm.
Fraggle Rock, Canada, one of the greatest Canadian mind control programs ever made.
I
Buddy,
don't
that was
understand this show.
Flintstone shit.
Dude, so basically Jim Henson, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna do this? Yeah, I'm in a tangent. I don't care.
Fraggle
Um,
Rock.
So Sesame
Yeah, I
Street
think I was too old for it. It was like annoying.
well, hear me out. Sesame Street
Okay.
Unpaved, right? Because Sesame Street was in 1960.
Unpaved. Whoa.
Yeah, because you've got this idea of Sesame Street.
Crack in the streets and homeless and prostitution.
It's not relatable to every kid from Thunder Bay. If you're not getting like Big Bird gets abducted and he's got this like hidden friend that is Snuffleupagus who's clearly on methadone, and then you've got the Croat. Okay, the Count is clearly Croatian. I mean,
Oh
the
my god.
how many times will we have to eat cevapcici this week? 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Count.
Oh,
That is-
that's awful.
He's from Split, dude. And then of
Okay,
course,
wait. Do you think Donald Duck is a Slav?
I think he's Icelandic.
Oh, okay.
I think
trying to
so.
figure this
I
out,
wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised. I think he looks kind of Illyrian, but I
And
think
they
he's
kind
got
of
that.
put him in these tropes that are like kind of, I don't know, but
If you look at Donald Duck, he's a sailor, and you can imagine the
Yeah.
Croat sailor, and even though,
Yeah.
but he doesn't use a cravat. He uses the bow tie, and
Mm.
the colors of Ukraine or Sweden. And so I've always
right,
associated him
right.
with Scandinavia, and the fact that he talks that way. Have you ever talked to like someone who can't like a Scandi who can't speak English very well? Like
Oh,
a
okay.
16-year-old who never learned. It sounds like that kind of.
wow.
Worse would be Anglo-Frisian. If you go to the Frisians of Holland,
Who's that other duck down there? Oh,
oh, we'll go back. That's cool. Where'd he go?
sorry, real quick.
This guy?
Oh,
With the really thin neck. No, down there.
Oh, this is Donald
There,
Duck. This is the
yeah.
original
Oh,
Donald
wow.
Duck. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Back in the Duck
Mm.
day, and
That's an interesting one because look at it, it has the black bow tie and
Wow.
the white and white and blue instead of.
you know what he looks like? He looks like a Russian sailor. That's the Russian.
Yeah,
saying he's
exactly,
Slav.
dude.
boom.
Exactly.
I
Well
knew
He's
it.
done.
got the black and black slip on the hat there.
That is that's overwhelming, dude. They took a
That's
bow hunk and they
interesting.
made him a Swede. That's what is the reason? But you can even see actually look at that hat. Not
interesting.
even that hat even makes you kind of wonder. That's a
Whoa.
bit
and I know my hat.
bohemian. It's a bit bohemian.
Mhm.
But okay, so I digress.
All right.
Flintstone, no, Sesame Street was created originally. Oscar the Grouch, the homeless Vietnam vet, he was black or he was brown or orange. they made him green because they thought, hey, let's make all these colors so that we have colorful characters, but it won't be persons of color, which is now Sesame Street's like, we have the first Mexican Muppet, the first Asian Muppets. Like, dude, half of the Muppets were already Asian and Mexican. You just didn't care, or Puerto Rican, or you didn't look into it or want to know.
Look at this unibrow. Look at that one brow. Come
Dude,
on.
Clearly a Slav. That's a Bulgarian.
Okay, so I was talking to like a Gen Z kid at work because like we worked for 12 hours next to somebody, like, and they were telling me they watched Star Wars, the original ones, and they couldn't watch it because like the graphics or something.
Right.
Like they were like, I couldn't even get through it. They're like, it's so bad.
Well, that's
it's like there might be something to it where it's like they have to update the Muppets because people like cannot process them anymore.
It's not the. So here's the deal: kids used to watch
Star Wars
animation. Good question. 8 frames a second went to 12 frames a second for animation. 18 frames, 16, 18 frames a second for anime. 24 frames a second for movies. 30 frames a second for television. 60 frames a second for Nintendo. 180 hertz, 240 hertz for modern HDTV. The flicker rate is so rough. Oh, it's rough on these kids. So I know Lisa, who was on our show yesterday, was talking about her kids aren't allowed at their school, very good school, won't let their kids use electronics essentially until they're like 10 or 12. So they've had some hippocampal development period, because otherwise it throws you off. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that now there's tons of evidence that your brain can be made more intelligent from video games in certain ways, but there's other studies on predatorial hunting and everything having to do with distant sight, like following an eagle all day is actually really good for you apparently, and for your brain and for your eyes and training and that. So I mean, we've moved past the content issue, and if we just gave kids really like show kids silent films, show kids 20 frame a second old things, it'll help them be able to handle it, because otherwise it will feel weird and slow. And I know kids my own age who spent all their life watching Canadian television and video, not film, watched like all the TV shows. And so that was Canadian television already is in 25 and 30 as opposed to 24. So it's using this is like the that's kind of like changing your frequency, and I think that's a bigger issue. The other thing is we've moved it away from stories people are interested in telling. So you have a female character and she might be a Native American and she's doing all the, maybe she's handicapped. She's doing whatever the Canadian television demands she does, but it's not what the audience is needing. And so kids are moving away from the relationship between characters that don't use the internet is confusing. Like how you can watch a movie about kids in the 90s who had to get across the country to call their girlfriend or something.
Yeah, where's the suspense?
It doesn't make sense to us anymore.
I feel like children's cartoons have also lost a huge sense of humor. Like if you go back, and now like big media conglomerates are a big problem, but early Warner Brothers, like I think if you go back,
they cursed in Yiddish, like right in front of the kids. Yeah.
They were actually funny, and they were intended they were basically intended for the entire family to watch them. So like there was a lot of humor that appealed to a lot of the adult population. Like if you go back and watch Looney Tunes, I think Looney Tunes, a lot of episodes are actually still funny. Now, I think if you watch a lot of modern television, there aren't too many breakout like cartoon series that are meant to be hilarious to a broader population. It's about conditioning your child to think in a certain way. And I'm not saying that for the leftist or the rightist agenda. I'm saying like your children are supposed to be workers. They're increasingly, we have this wealth gap, of course, and that meme has gone around the internet. Like what's happened since 1975 and 1980.
I'll tell you what's happened. Oscar the Grouch is green. No, I'm sorry.
No.
Whoa, there he is. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I kind of like the orange. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I do too. I think he's cool.
Yeah, I'm badass.
I miss that guy.
I like the green.
I do like the green too.
We pull up a clip. Can we get a clip of Grouch, the Oscar the Grouch?
I mean, if I went
forget
Oscar,
what he sounds like.
Oh, I don't know if I can do. I might get troubled.
Okay, don't worry about it. Sorry, my bad.
I love trash. I love trash. Something like that. But I mean, okay. So you get the idea.
What he sounds like.
He lives in the city. There are homeless people. It is very unrelatable. It's very unrelatable to most people to watch Sesame Street. Unless you, the thing is, the kids who watch this from New York City and from Philadelphia and from San Francisco, they lived around. There were child molesters. There's cannibals. There's a cult ceremonies going on. So the kinds of things kids were dealing with was really traumatic. And Sesame Street really tackled all of these issues. Tackled child sacrifices, there's literally an episode where Big
Wow.
Bird goes into an Egyptian museum and meets a boy who was sacrificed in ancient Egypt. And during a week when that was going on. So amazing stuff,
Mhm.
but it was just too unrelatable for everybody. He said, let's make a bigger show.
Oh yeah,
And it's
Fraggle
going to be Canadian as F. And we're going to
How
shoot
cute
it.
that guy is though, with his little tomato and
Dude, everything about the show. And these are the
VeggieTales over here.
these VeggieTales too, but these are the characters that imprinted on me instead of the Sesame Street. And they're all like liberal arts students in college that live on a trampoline together, you know? But they're fighting with the real world. And the real world, they see Uncle, what's his name, who's gone off to the real world, human world. What's it called? The weird, what do they call humans? They call them strange monsters or whatever. But he's like, hey, they go outside and then they see they pull out these sticks and they put them into the sky, and then it makes it start to rain, but they're really just umbrellas. And he's thinking that the umbrellas started the rain rather than stopping the rain. And all these lessons for kids that were about, hey, if you use too much water, the world on the other side will suffocate without the water. And but you know, there's some people that have to work all the time. It's their dharma to just work all the time. Dozers work all day while the Fraggles play. And okay, it seems like it's for kids, but it gets weirder. How Jim Henson, this is Telegraph, how Jim Henson tried to bring an end to the Cold War with Fraggle Rock. And it's an interesting story because he was thinking, hey, what if we made a show for kids that we could educate them all over the world, the Soviet Union, the United States, England, Japan, and then they're all going to have the same puppets, the same experiences, the same conditioning, and it's going to teach them to be anti-war. It's going to teach them to be pro-peace. It's going to be teaching them about the ecosystem and everything like this. And the Canadian government and the British government helped finance this, just like the British government had financed the Muppets, which had originally been called Sex and Violence. And he decided to change the name from Puppet Sex and Violence to the Muppets. But
I used to watch that show.
yeah, because he thought, hey, a show called Sex and Violence, that's what sells on American television. But, you know, they took it to the level of making a show to imprint onto kids how to have peace and tolerance and interact with each other. And it's a perfect example, like another one of those. In America, we have to say, oh, what a weird conspiracy. What if they're putting stuff in kids' cartoons? In Canada, they can just tell you how proudly they are that they're going to save the kids with this new educational show.
My brother tried to make cartoons for a bit, and he was saying that there's like restrictions on teaching. Like you have to be really careful in the language that you use when you're presenting an idea. It's like you're not allowed to be like, this is educational or this is teaching them something. Like you have to be really careful. So it is sort of secret.
Do you know why that is? Or is it?
There's like legality to that. I guess it's like
to be a teacher or something.
To be the teacher in the cartoon. Yeah. You don't want to, it's pushing ideology that like they can't get behind, you know, all the sponsors or all the advertisements can't.
Oh, okay. Like,
you know, organize. Yeah. Like product, like whatever it is, just like you can't back that idea. Like what if it's teaching something that they don't agree with or something, you know?
It's been like 15 years since we had the SpongeBob episode where they went on strike against the Krusty Krab, and literally that whole
that was a big deal.
That whole show was a metaphor for the French Revolution. I think, like it was
elaborate.
It was quite
anti-union, baby.
Yeah, it was such a brilliant episode, and SpongeBob was actually incredibly political in some of its episodes, its early episodes.
They have L. Ron Hubbard, and they deal with Scientologists and Freemasons, and yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, that episode in particular. Well, there's so much biting satire about American culture in general. It's amazing that it actually passed for what it was. And after Hillenburg, the creator, he died, the show just kind of went off a cliff in terms of how much it appealed to overall intellect. So the episode where SpongeBob and Squidward went on strike, he starts repeating these mantras, I guess. Squidward gets into his head. He says, we've been dealing with this shit for too long. He doesn't say shit because it's SpongeBob, but I think Hillenburg wouldn't have had a problem with swearing if he had total control. So he said, by the end of the episode, SpongeBob is actually brainwashed to a certain degree. And he says, I'm going to dismantle this oppressive establishment board by board.
Wow.
I'm going to saw the tables of justice in half.
Full sang juste, yeah.
Yeah, I will gnaw at the ankles of big business. And really did address a lot of the issues in our system that we have, the American system does have those problems with big business, and it was a really valid critique, but it also showed the other end of things to where people can be radicalized very easily and not understand where the middle ground is. So he literally ends up destroying the entire business, and they end up having to work for Mr. Krabs for the rest of their lives to pay for the damages. So that's the end of the episode. And it's like, yeah, we did it. We got our jobs forever. So
that's union.
Such a great episode. But
Dude.
I don't think we have that anymore. I don't think we have great, really thought out children's cartoons anymore. That's maybe I could be biased, but I'm
Pendleton Ward tried, but they took it away from him as well with
exactly. They're taking it away.
Adventure Time.
I mean, kids play Make Believe. Like, do you guys remember any Make Believe games? We used to play Cops and Robbers a lot. One time, I think it was like grade one-ish. I think we're 7, 8.
I like to make believe that everything's okay.
We played War. Okay, this got serious. And the thing was, on the playground, you ran. You just like ran chaos. So it's like you would just be by yourself and like running anywhere, and everyone was running everywhere. But this space was so big that you like, there were so many other kids in other grades. Not everyone was playing, so it's like it was just chaos. Like you don't know who's going to come out of where. And then this is really profound. I remember like, okay, so there was this area that had like a boat, and it was like a water park normally, but it was never on for us kids at school. And then we like, okay, this Italian kid, like he ran across at me and I ran across at him. We were running across the, I guess, ocean together. And like we were coming at each other and like, and then he sucker punched me in the stomach.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, and then basically it meant like I died, in war. And then basically the rest of the day, like the rest of the break was like me wandering around listlessly, like in the ocean thing, like a ghost, like I'm dead. I can't play anymore.
Full Ram Dass ego death.
Yeah. And then this kid looked at me like after he did it, he was like, shit, is she going to cry? Like, oops. Cause he had probably just reacted, cause I was like, and he just like did an actual like
Gestalt process.
Yeah. And then he had to like accept like he's alive and he won, like, so we both kind of had this moment of like, like, what does this mean? It was really profound. I hope kids still play Make Believe. Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. I noticed like drugs are the new make believe for people. They're like, whoa, my reality's shifted. And then you go, I was playing that game, Call of Duty 2, where they go
Call
into
of Booty?
That's what they call it. That's what the ladies call it, I thought. But it's a popular game where couples. Yeah. But but in that game, there's a level where you're dealing with zombies. Was that what it was? Yeah. And then there's drugs in the forest because you're at like an 80s Santa Cruz, California movie shoot or something like that. And so you go to the fireplace pit and you kick the drugs, and all of a sudden everything goes into this swarming DMT trip, but you can kind of see like infrared for a bit. Like you can see where people are approaching you in the dark and whatnot. Yeah, it's a trip. But I was like, this is amazing because it's going to teach kids about drugs without them needing to do drugs. And frankly, I like it better than drugs because it's just like 15, 30 seconds in the game. It's colorful. It's fun. It's over. I can go do it again. It'll end really quickly. I mean, that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my thought on imagination because I think we've replaced it with chemicals and things.
Booty. All right.
They do, like, I guess
That's the takeaway.
I think that games make the most money out of any entertainment stream, right? So, and one's like, who's writing theory? Like, is there like people writing theory on games? Like,
yeah, there are people for sure.
Like,
People writing
analyzing
theory on
it.
everything.
Right?
Game
theory on theory, dog.
You need
Game
the theory
is huge.
to
Jordan
get there
Peterson
and be like,
Jordan Peterson wrote a big thing on game theory, also talking about Catan, and a lot of friends I know who make video games, they'll tell me to start the game, they build a board game version of the video game. So like Red Dead Redemption, nice. Grand Theft Auto, there's a physical board game that was created in order to map out their plans for how the game was going to work. And so they end up playing that like Dungeons and Dragons, and the story comes out. There's certain, maybe the story is a little bit less invented in ways because there's an actual screenwriting technique that's going on. But you look at Grand Theft Auto and you can see there's specific characters that have specific things that are generating. It's very much a D&D style a game. So
It's
yeah,
so
the creators are D&D.
It's like advanced storytelling. It's like 3-dimensional worlds. Like,
yeah, I mean, they can't censor it as much as they want to, except for by taking it and making it super expensive. We had a friend talking about this a while ago.
Yeah, I haven't played since NES and like Super Nintendo.
No. I mean, like, so to make a video game in Canada in 1982 would have cost you about $2,000 or less in Canadian money. And like today, it's like $100 million to make a game. I have several friends with Canadian video game companies that the first major investment was literally just for lawyers because of all these random guys who are going to sue you, not because they have anything on you, but just because they can. They see you have $1 million, and in the court you're going to spend a lot of money, so you expect to settle. So you have like 10 people that are like, oh yeah, we have this, patent on the idea of using a controller with a video game. It's like, no, you don't. What are you talking about? And then they'll force that. So it's so impossibly expensive to make a game or a movie. And simultaneously, that's a really great way. I mean, now we have marijuana. I think Canada does this too. They don't need to launder money through movies and video games the way they used to, because you can just own a marijuana boutique or something, or, however you're going to get your money. Movies, though, $10 popcorn, really great way to launder money. You're like, oh yeah, lots of money going through this. And so to own the movie theaters, to buy and sell the movie, to say we only made this much money on this movie that wasn't very popular because it was too artistic, that's fine a lot of the time for Hollywood at the time, because it's about laundering the money. Video games are becoming that way as well. Art, like first a painting, right?
I worked in movie theaters.
Yeah. But I mean, video games have become the same thing. I did want to talk about that teacher. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, the movie teacher.
Well, because you had gone and said, what did you say? You said it's really, I wanted to tie it in with, you shouldn't be a teacher in a cartoon, in Canada. But here's a cartoon teacher in Canada in every way. And so.
Yeah. And people are defending them. So clearly they're being genuine, right?
Can you walk me through this as a Canadian? Like, what did you first hear about this and what is going on?
On your show. Okay. And then I thought,
this doesn't seem real.
Hysterical. This is hysterical.
Yeah, I thought it was like brilliant. I was like, oh, I would do this.
I thought they were trying to make like a point. But then I thought, why are they spending lots of money they're prosthetic just to prove a point?
Because they're from Ontario, and Ontario is different. We all know. But
those Ontario tits.
Ontario. All right. School defends. This is the best part. School defends gender rights, quote, of trans teacher with giant prosthetic breasts. Canadian Teacher School Board is, quote, standing behind a trans teacher who sparked protests after turning up to class with, quote, clownish giant prosthetic breasts. I'm surprised that they're allowed to say that in the article. I feel like they could get in trouble.
That's a bold word.
They're just super big. I mean, you've all met somebody that lives like this. They have terrible back support, and it's no woman's like, yeah, that's what I want to live with. That's fun.
It's like when you're holding a water balloon and you're like, oh, it's gonna break.
Yeah.
But it also explains he's a teacher around adolescence, and maybe that's the connection. Is like it takes you back. Lisa was talking about how some people have a cognitive block that keeps them from maturing, and maybe he's like, oh well, I'll never be able to become the man I wanted to be, but I could be the girl I loved in high school or something. I don't. That's one. I mean, who's to say? That could be completely off, but the blonde high school teacher, that's how we're describing her. The blonde high school teacher went viral after being filmed operating a cutoff saw in class while wearing tight black shorts, bike shorts, and balloon-like breasts drooping around the waist in a tight striped top. Other images taken by pupils at the school in Oakville, about 20 miles outside of Toronto, showed the same teacher in other outfits with huge nipples protruding from the fake bust. The Halton District School Board confirmed that the person getting significant attention online was an Oakville High School teacher, but it refused to identify the educator, while warning that the wrong person had been named in online reports. That's got to be the worst thing. Like if you get calls in the middle of the night, like, I hate that you're in school with your big boobs in my kid's face, and you're like, dude, thank you for calling tech support. Some disturbed pupils have skipped classes held by the Oakville Industrial Arts teacher who began identifying as a female only last year. So this is a new development, which is probably what
I guess if the kids have the freedom to change classes if it makes them
Laura Croft
uncomfortable.
over here.
Yeah.
Well, think of the other way. What if some woman just put a giant fucking dildo in her spandex pants and just started walking around?
I think that would be allowed though, right? Like I used to have one of those steam rollers, which is like the 10-inch pipes,
Well, it doesn't make
in a pair of Jinko jeans,
Well, if this is a prosthetic and not like a sex toy,
Well, aren't they the kind of the same thing? It's artificial.
It depends.
It's artificial.
I mean, with something
it's
like
not
that.
to feed babies. I hear what you're getting at here.
It's not to feed babies. I'm saying, and it's a sexual part. It's like It's
What
like,
what
I
really
think people
scares
can take
me.
issue with that, and it's not bigotry. It's like, I think this is, if this person was satirizing the entire culture of where things have gone, they would be doing an excellent job of doing it. Because how do we tell?
I thought that's what it was, and like
That's
I
what I
don't
believe.
know, but maybe if you knew the person in person, then you kind of would have.
I'm gonna reach out for an interview because I'm so
Yeah.
curious. But like this, the thing is, like, as a Californian, this doesn't even offend me, which is the funniest part. I know some people should be annoyed at me for that, but I mean, my main thought was like, dude, how cool, this teacher's really good at the table saw, and with that bag of balloons on their chest, like, it's really hard to balance yourself, I'm sure, and that's impressive. And you know, if you're that punk rock that you don't care, but I think
Yeah,
it's
it
that
is
they
punk.
do. I think it is that they do care. That's what I'm starting to wonder.
Okay.
Well, I don't
Okay.
know anymore. Like, I agreed with you yesterday. I felt like this is a genius social engineering stunt, but the sad truth is so many people do believe this, that it's become,
Oh, they're bigger than that kid over there.
dude. Yeah. And so the kids
I
did
know.
start sending in
It's really hard not
pictures,
to,
and
like,
some people are like,
enjoy.
whoa. But
Doctor.
where did that go? Did I lose the article now? Oh no. But
I think maybe
hey.
some parents could say like psychological evaluation here, like. But I was even saying, like, how many people had like totally crazy teachers when they were growing up? Like, they just didn't show it outwardly so much, or didn't show. But,
there's
you know, you're
always
trapped
stories.
in this room with a teacher, and they're like totally insane sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's valid. It's valid to question the entirety of this, not because of this story, but like,
yeah, not this, but all the time. Yeah, I remember always thinking my teachers are crazy. I'm like, oh my god.
there's been stories all the time of like my high school teachers like having the phone numbers of, you know, opposite sex students, like, in a weird way. You know, it seems to be a perpetual thing that nobody just kind of does anything about, because we're used to sending our kids off to basically daycare while we go to our jobs and bring home the money and say your education is more important than me caring about you. So there's a lot of weirdness out there, and we don't evaluate it.
Well,
it's important for kids to know that they can be an asshole to a teacher if they want to.
Oh yeah, that's key.
Yeah.
It's important for a Canadian to know they can be an asshole in general, I think. But this is
we can do it to each other, but
we'll
like
still love you. No, Americans will be like, nice. Like that's a good sign.
they
But
kind
so
of beat
here's-
it out of you for sure in this country.
Here's the irony, or maybe it's not irony, but here's the relevant facts. The students don't seem hyper offended yet. Maybe the pictures coming out mean that they were, but I think they were just like, this is hilarious, and we're living our lives, and they're Canadian. Like, Canadians deal with a lot of weird stuff and seem to deal with it. I don't know. But the board was creating a safety plan for the teacher to make sure she is protected and can continue to leading the class amid the protests. I don't know. There have been phone calls made to the school that haven't been the most pleasant in nature. Shuttle told Toronto. Protecting gender rights is the stance that the teachers, of course, it's Canada. They have to support gender rights. And so this is going to some level, at some point, it's going to go too far. It's going to be too much, and the entire thing will collapse. Not the breast, I mean the argument. But this teacher who teaches shop is an extremely effective teacher, she insisted. All the kids, well, I believe that. I think I've known like transgendered electrical engineers and things. I mean, there's no reason they can't be. It's not like that's not the part of the brain. But all right, all the kids really love being in the class, the board chair said, while conceding there have been some disconnect between pupils, because pupils recorded the teacher in class. So some of the kids admittedly are not super down, but then they're not liking to admit that. They're saying all of the kids really love being in the class. So I don't know. What do you guys think about?
I always had this question: would it be seen as offensive if someone were transracial? Like, I don't feel like a white guy. I feel like I was a white guy that was meant to be a black guy. You know, I think a lot of people would be offended by that. You know, like, how do we consider women a minority, and how much is that? Well, I think we've talked about this too, Andreas, is like, how much is that almost a wholly, like, awesome type of thing that shouldn't just be exchanged by arbitrary and opinionated means? Like, I can't just go out and call myself a black person because for obvious reasons. And why is it obvious in that case?
The only white people that can call themselves black persons are
stuff.
black nobility, right? That's the only one.
I don't know. I feel like there is a huge difference there, and it's inexplicable into why we have the standard for one and not the other. I mean, it is explicable, but we have to jump through so many hoops to actually explain it.
That's a really good point. I think that, you know,
Here we go.
this is how case law works, right? You say in one example it was true, so it should be true in the other example. Well, the problem here,
well, she was getting money and like grants, and
that's pretty terrible. But let's go even further. I mean, so she's saying she feels like this group she's surrounded in that she sympathizes with, right? Which is different than saying you've gone through the exploitation of the class that you want to be a part of. So class is not necessarily something you can kind of make your way into a class, but not always. A lot of it is like, you're a woman's a class. I mean, there's things that the class changes, but there's an oppressive level. There's a didactic level. There are things about it which are that they're associated with other people's representation and presentation of yourself. So it is a class, it's a social perspective. And for her to say, you know, I get what it's like to be Black, is to say, I have experienced your suffering. I am a member of your suffering. I'm a member of what you've been through. And anything that you've been through, I've been through. And that's not true. She might sympathize. She might feel bad for them. She might think they're cool. These are all very different reasons. These are nothing to do with actually experiencing what they go through. And the same can be said for the transsexual experience, because I would say women, again, as a class, have been, you know, they're a class. And so this guy who's thinking he's a woman, right? That is, this is not respectful to the exploitation of women in history by any respect. Now, I'm not saying that's the only thing that's ever happened to women, but this is not a celebration of femininity. This is a celebration of the worst aspects of feminine exploitation. You know,
possibly, like, how do we know though if we don't ask? And how do we know if we don't ask nicely?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Which, like, how do we know what's going on that end of this spectrum?
Do you wear a bunch of like clown makeup ever on a date?
I don't look great. No.
Like, would you ever? No. So I'm saying it's not femininity, right? But men, like homosexual men in the 1600s, invented makeup, right? Well, true. But this is the thing. Men invented makeup. Homosexuals for men made makeup for men. Powdered wigs, powdered faces, powdered etc. Women started wearing grandpa's sweatshirt, started being hipster, started wearing makeup to be like their dad. All right. It made its way into feminine culture, but it's not a feminine experience.
Unfortunately, America's just not a collectivist place. It's an individual's land. So what is individuation? What is individuation? What is individualness? You know, it's that goes forever and ever. So it's like, to define that, it's going to take a while, you know.
I just listened to a podcast about, I believe it was Schmidt. Was that the one? His whole critique was the entirety of liberalism in the West. And I'm not saying I agree, but some of his critique seemed to be pretty pointed. And it just said I think he would say that our struggle to have a sense of identity is just evidence of how lost we are in general.
Yeah, like, maybe they'll heal that, and maybe people chill out on like the level of prosthetic they're wearing, you know, but still exactly. Like, themselves.
I don't see that coming. I see corporations making it possible for you to be more yourself as the road we're going on. And so
but
eventually
then, like,
you won't be able to be yeah, exactly. You won't be able to be a man or a woman unless you have the corporate additions that like the new definition of a man, the new definition of a woman are going to come with the product that you make it with. Jordan, I know you have to leave. Do you have any final thoughts on this before I start sharing your links?
Sorry, speaking of class, Mr. Xirtus, I got to bump out of class a few minutes early this week. So
that's cool.
I don't have any finishing points. This has been a great discussion. Melissa, it was great to meet you.
Likewise.
Sorry, is it Kurt?
Yes, Kurt.
Awesome. Nice Kurt, it is nice to see you again. But yeah, check out Divulgence podcast. Please subscribe on YouTube. Audio is available just about everywhere, from Spotify to Amazon, all that, you know, Apple, all that good stuff. I just put out a few days ago there an interview with John Phillips, the attorney for Joe Exotic, Tiger King.
Dude, that's a based hat. I love that hat too.
Yeah, man. that's
On
my
your
big boy
podcast,
hat.
do you sort of cover like law and stuff like that? Like kind of.
Yeah, law and true crime, some scandal, history, hidden history, some conspiracy stuff. So there's Lynn.
He's got a
There's
great
that,
Camp X video. He's got amazing guests.
Yeah,
He's done
so
some
we're gonna try to
really
get
good
Lynn
stuff.
on. We're gonna try to get Lynn on your show here next week. So I'll let you know about that. But
Legit.
yeah, check out Divulgence, and I'm also working on a whole piece about the whole Paul is dead, the Paul McCartney replacement
Wow.
theories. So if anyone's interested in kind of having a discussion about that, I'm gonna.
I got a guy that needs to talk to you about that. It's his whole rabbit
Okay.
hole. So I'll set you up with that. That's awesome.
Cool. So yeah, it was great to meet you guys and everyone watching. Thanks for watching, and I'll see everyone soon. So
Legit,
enjoy the
dude.
rest of your
Bye.
conversation. Thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, enjoy
Peace and
Canada.
love.
We'll see you soon.
I will, man.
Yes,
Thanks.
you
See you
Canada.
later.
And then
Yes, I
Kurt,
can.
Kurt, your American Time Machine music. It's only getting better all the time. What was the one that I just don't actually kill yourself was legit. There was was this the new one? This is the latest release, Anti-Demon, right? So I'm actually completely overwhelmed. And Atlantis, Peter Pan, those are the three that I liked so far the most. ILU, I mean, they're all great though. They're all great. Guys, get his album, start listening to his music. And yeah, I mean, dude, stoked on you.
Thank you.
I love you, Kurt.
I think it's my best stuff, and I've been really in a huge creative slump because I'm like, wow, I don't know where to go from here. So that seems to be the accumulation of everything I've learned so far. But yeah.
Well, I got some thoughts. You know, I told you I'll make you my girlfriend song that we can work on. Melissa,
Mm.
do you have a website, a link?
No.
Do you have like a
I don't do anything but work and watch your show and
guys? Go to the
some art
Discord.
a little bit, but
You can connect with Melissa in the Discord for the Tartary Nova, and that way we can.
I'll have to
connect more.
join that too because I'm actually not in that either.
Don't say that. No, everybody join the Discord. That's the good stuff. And
I'm
then
in the chat on the
Yeah.
video on the episodes. Like
Yeah,
I'm
it's true.
always yapping.
Melissa, that's her name. So you can find her there. And then
Yeah.
hopefully you'll be back. We can talk more about Canada in the future. I also want to talk more about Croatian history and Slavic history. That's fun. I know your brother's an expert. We'll do some of that too. So that'd be great.
Really fun.
Dude, thanks a lot, guys. Hey, Kurt, do you want to play your guitar? Is that feasibility or are you?
Oh, I'm trying to adjust here. I don't know if you
Ah.
can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can't hear the guitar yet. Oh, yes. There it
Oh.
is. There it is.
This is fucking awkward.
This is the first time we've done this, but I've been wanting to do music and talk show.
Advanced philosophy memes. We have really good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Based fucking memes.
Woo!
I don't have my pick either, but I just grabbed it to see if you could hear me. But yeah, I tried. Oh, fuck.
We need like a little like fire going or something.
Something, but I don't want to play cover songs because I don't. That's always awkward, but
Oh.
yeah, I would definitely have to plan in order to get more comfortable.
That's fair. I mean, at
'Cause
least
this is my
set it up.
armchair. Yeah.
Well,
But,
I mean,
yeah. Direct in.
anytime you want to do that, I think we're gonna do that some more. I think that's awesome. It already sounds amazing. So we'll set that up. That'll be cool. Thank you for making the time, man. That's the best. Let's do this next week. You guys feel up to it? It sounds like a lot of fun. MK Canada.